What's going on? This is Jimmy.
What's going on, guys? This is Rachel. Jimmy changed up my music. I was in here like, mm. What y'all Christians know about that?
Look,
I was
guys,
TikToking it.
how are you all doing today? Thank you all so much for joining us on
Yes,
Relationship Real Talk.
we are happy to be in the same place
Because you've been
at the
just
same.
traveling.
I've been traveling and I'm not done. Got one more to go before I go back to work. But it's all good, you know. I'm just happy to be here. I think the chemistry, the energy, and you guys can tell us. I don't know if it was the same, if it was different, but for me's, um, the energy is different when you're right here next to me. There's something about being thrown on the bus when I'm next to the person who's throwing me under the bus, as opposed to miles away.
Yeah. Well, look, guys, we again thank you all so much for joining us. And we do not take it for granted that you are taking some time out of your day just to come in the living room with us.
Yes. Thank you for coming in the living room. And you know what we want you to do? It would be unfair and selfish to just be in the living room and not invite somebody else. So I want y'all to pause for the cause.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to share this with 3 people. Think of 3 people you think might enjoy this conversation.
Or, you can just share it, on your whole page. I don't, hey, the more the merrier.
Yeah, like share it to people.
Because unfortunately, babe, fortunately rather,
okay.
This virtual living room is not restricted by the COVID-19 social distancing.
Listen, you don't have to be 6 feet away. That's done for you. You don't have to have a mask on. You can breathe freely.
That's
this is a safe space.
That's it.
Most of the time when he's not trying to throw me under the bus, but it's a safe space where you can breathe. You have no fear of COVID, and we can just have great conversation about relationships and how we can make them better and what we can do. I mean, we're all in this thing together, aren't we?
We are.
We always say when we're talking to you, we're talking to ourselves.
Listen, I'm excited because I see some of our regulars. I see my girl Angela Ruffin is on there. Sean Strong is on there.
We got 2 Seans on.
Yeah, we sure do. And then we have Sean Strong Mitchell. Yep. But I am so excited just to be here today and have you right here because it was okay, you split screening with me and stuff like that, but having you right here.
That split screen.
Yeah, the split screen.
We're right about there. Like I couldn't pinch you, or sometimes I'm gonna have to nudge you and everybody else don't see it.
All of that. Yep.
All that good stuff.
That you snitching on yourself about.
Listen, this is relationship real talk. I'm not trying to fake the funk with these people. As a matter of fact, I feel like they're like extended family because you're talking about people week after week who are coming in to join us and to have conversation with us. And let's not forget, okay, if the spirit so moves you at any point, you want to come on in this living room, you want to go live with us, you want the people to see you, you want to be heard, let us know. All you got to do is say, I want to come in the living room.
That's right.
And we'll let you on in there. We'll send
you
the code.
What's going on, Carla?
What's going on, Carla? Glad you could be with us in this living room today.
So babe, what
are we talking about?
What are we talking about?
Wait, pause just for a second. Just want to make sure the people shared. Share it to your page and share it to at least 3 people.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
Sometimes you just got to take a second.
We appreciate that.
All right. Yes. Thank you so much. And those of you who are first-time watchers or viewers, can you please share with us in the comments where you are viewing from? That would be wonderful for you to share that with us. All right. And we would be more than happy to welcome you. All right. As we know, we love our family.
Right.
Not some of them, right? I mean, let's just be honest. Sometimes, you love them, but sometimes you can't stand them. But there are times where they cross the line and they get involved in your relationships. They're all in the business between you and your significant other. And this can start to cause, unrest, conflict that you really don't need in addition to the regular conflict that you just have in relationships. And so the reason why, I saw this post.
The reason why what?
The reason I'm about to finish it, baby. Follow with me. Come on this journey with me. Sometimes so many things go in my head.
That's what I'm
I
talking
know,
about.
baby, but if you just be patient and give it a chance, you're gonna figure out exactly where this journey is taking you. Like I tell my
Because I asked
students,
you for the title and you
there's
going
a
somewhere
method to
else.
my madness. Baby, I already told
No,
them
you did.
what it was about. I just didn't give them the title yet. Can I build this up? Babe, what?
Oh,
We're not in the same room for 2 weeks and you lose your mind. And I think everybody who's watching saw that it said, can your family get out of our business? Okay, I had already explained it, but let me go ahead and continue before I was so rudely interrupted. Um, for those of you that might have a guilty pleasure of watching these housewives shows, I tell you what, I've seen Candy Burris on Housewives of Atlanta, and it would grate my nerves to no end when her mother would get involved in her relationship with her husband, and she didn't check her, and she actually justified it like, that's my mom, I'm supposed to respect her, you're supposed to honor your parents. And I'm like, you're not honoring in the true sense of honoring if you're letting her, you're not honoring your relationship, which at this point, once marry that person before God and witnesses, that is what is binding. It's God, your relationship with that individual, and then your children and family. And so she didn't want to check her mom on something that she was dead wrong about, talking about who this man had been with and what his intentions were in just an evil way. And she just let her do it because that's my mom and I got to respect her. I just feel like she had the respect thing all twisted. So that was just one scenario, but there's so many scenarios. It doesn't have to just be the mom. It could be a sibling. It could be,
friend.
friends,
Right.
best friends, who's been, he was, I was here before him. I'm going to be out here after him, therefore saying already that there is going to be an after him. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
So that's what we want to talk about today, guys. So if you're ready to come on in here, we got some questions for y'all. And Sean said, right. We got some questions for y'all. We would love to hear from you guys and even certain scenarios. The first question we're going to ask is, how do you protect yourself or your relationship from messy family members? And let me tell you, it's touchy because if you don't think it's touchy, think about your most dear family member and imagine them trying to get in the middle of your relationship. Then it gets really, you got to be really careful.
Well, not and not always just getting in the middle, but sometimes just giving that unasked for advice. You know, I I didn't ask you for that.
So are you saying because it's unasked for, it's not good advice?
Well, no, I'm not necessarily saying that. I'm saying
Okay. Tell
sometimes
us
when
what you're saying.
when it's unasked for, don't give it. You know what I'm saying? A lot of time, even with what I do, um, talking with couples, there are too many instances where friends and family are giving unwanted and unwarranted advice to their friend or loved one,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not wise advice. It
Right.
is it
Right.
is a it is a piece of advice that doesn't make the relationship better. It only will
Right.
destroy the
And I'm
relationship.
glad you said that because here's what I realized about advice. I don't know about you guys, but for me, it goes through a filtering process really quick in my brain. It's like I have to test it against my principles, my core values, what I know as a Christian to be right. And if I feel as if, like, when I check those things, like, wait a minute, that does not align with the spirit, you have got to know to reject that. And
Right.
what's scary is some people will accept anything
Yeah.
just for the sake of saying, well, that is my sister or that
Right.
is my brother.
Right.
But we got some people commenting on here.
We got a bunch of comments.
Yeah, Betty said that's one of the things I learned the hard way.
Yeah.
She didn't check her auntie on something who got into her situation. Carla said, just like Letitia's mom on Love and Marriage, there's something called Love and Marriage Huntsville. My Huntsville people, shout out to you. And once again, Letitia's mom was literally, when I tell y'all, she was in the center of, like, they are having a disagreement and she walks in as they're having the disagreement and gives her 2 cents. And to me, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, and Jimmy and I talked about this, whoever's family member, blood family member it is, that should be the first one to check it.
Yep.
So Letitia should have checked her mom and said, Mom, I got this. If you can just step outside, we'll talk. I'll talk to you in just a minute. And if the mom kept coming, the conversation does not continue with your husband or significant other until you check that situation. Because what she was able to do was see that she can weasel her way in that
I have
conversation.
no idea what you all are talking about, but I'm just gonna go with the scenario because, and I want to say this: I agree with you 100% that
Mm-hmm.
the biological or the person that's related to the family member should be the initial person to check it.
Without a doubt.
However, if they fail to,
I know you don't mind.
what?
I know you don't mind.
If they fail to check their own loved one, the loved one's gonna get checked. Yeah.
Well, you know what, babe? And the thing about that is, for you it will, but you'd be surprised. There are a lot of people are like, you know what? I'm not going to get in the middle of it because that's her mom. And if I get in the middle of it, before you know it, I'm the one that's going to be in the doghouse. I'm the one that's going to be thrown under the bus, so to speak.
Well,
But
I'm gonna just say this, and for those of you who are viewing, I believe that there is an order of operations for everything,
definitely.
right? And we've often talked about the hierarchy of relationships as it relates a marriage as it relates to other relationships.
Mm-hmm.
You are giving your spouse a clear message when you refuse to check a loved one that's dipping into you all's business and you all didn't ask them to dip into it.
Have
And when
mercy.
you refuse to check that loved one, you're telling your spouse something very significant. And so now you're going to be the one. See, at first it was the loved one who was potentially going to drive a wedge or
Right.
potentially attempt to drive a wedge.
Right.
But then when you don't correct it, you're actually the person that's driving the wedge.
Now
And
that's
so
true.
and so
That's true.
and so now not only am I going to have a problem with your family member, I'm now going to have a problem with you because you failed to check it.
Yeah. And see, that is where it becomes when people are butting in, how it can kind of start to mess up the relationship. It's in how the people in the relationship handle it. And we'll talk about towards the end of this show, some tips that we have on how to handle it. But Betty is right. She says advice will always be given. It's what you do with it that matters.
Right.
There's some advice that you just need to check it at the door.
Right.
And there's some you got to marinate on, like, wait a minute, I need to think about that.
Well, and I like the way that Betty put that because it is true that is what you do with it. However, I do believe that there are times when let me just use this as an example. There are times when you're going to get some advice, it goes in one ear and out the other.
Mm-hmm.
Then there are times you get some advice and it's maybe some sound advice. Then there are times you're getting advice and you didn't ask for it, you didn't want it, it's not good, and that's the advice. See, because sometimes when people have the freedom of just voicing their opinion about matters that don't belong to them,
Right.
sometimes those people have to be put in their place. You can try to do it lovingly at first, but some folks just don't do well with, hey, I don't really, I don't need that.
Yeah, and you know what, babe? Like I would have an issue with the one that, like, you're always trying to give, your 3 cents or 2 cents in it. You're always trying to say something. And just like Carla just said, consider the source. But here's what I do believe, because like we said, there's so many different dynamics that goes on in relationships. Sometimes you may have not asked for it, but it's something that needs to be said because there's something that's going on that somebody outside of your relationship that loves you recognizes. You know what?
Yeah.
There's some. I didn't want to gloss over that. Like sometimes it could be a situation where you didn't ask for this, but this is something that concerns me that I'm noticing, and you might want to be careful of.
So
Blah, blah,
so
blah.
remember we talked about good advice, bad
Right,
advice,
right.
and then unwarranted advice. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And messy people tend to do all of them. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? And so unfortunately, some of the people in our lives are simply just messy. They think they have an opinion about everybody's situation, and they don't have any filters or any restraints on voicing
Right,
those
right.
feel. And sometimes they become disrespectful because just for example, um they your family members or friends. You know what I'm saying? So
What's that?
if they're your friends or
Right.
family members and they want to talk to you,
Right.
Okay, don't come to me though. I didn't ask you for that. You know what I'm
Talking about
saying?
if it's bad advice or if it's something
Right.
that,
That's what I'm saying.
yeah.
But I mean, don't get me wrong. I love wise counsel. I really do. I don't reject wise counsel,
hmm
but we're not talking about wise counsel
But you
here.
don't know it's bad till it's heard, till
Right.
it's said.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. But you know how we have those people, and everybody out there in this in Facebook land know the type person we're talking about.
yes, yes,
You
I
know,
agree.
so and
And
look at
I was
what
gonna say what
Angela said.
Angela, yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna put that
She
up.
said, I agree that the spouse must check their own family, but I honestly believe the relationship with the family will never be the same with the family of with the family and the spouse if not checked.
That's right.
Yeah, I totally agree. And here's what I learned, just over the course of being married, this is my second marriage. You have to teach your family, you have to establish new traditions and boundaries and
Mm,
things that you and your spouse are going to stand for. It's like a fortress. You have to protect your relationship.
I'm glad you said that.
And
So listen to this. Listen to this comment because it goes in line with what you're saying. I'm sorry.
Carla, or
Carol said
yeah,
this.
I saw that
She
one.
says, I think 9 times out of 10, you invite the messy family member
Yeah, I
in
was
by
gonna go there next.
complaining about your mate to them. So when they butt in front of your name,
In front of your mate.
in front of your mate, then it's a problem, right? So, Carol, you are 100% right. That's why I always say the first way to keep people at your business is stop talking your business.
You have to be very particular as to who you share your business with, because I think it goes back to what you said, which is what the Bible says. Like, you have to seek wise
Wise
counsel.
counsel.
If somebody has not proven to give you wise counsel, you, even though it might feel good for them to stroke you, it may not be the right person. I know she said something. You could say it in just a minute, but it may not be the right person.
Right.
Sometimes we go to people that feed our
There
emotions,
you go.
but they're not feeding the principle, the thing that the thing that is right. And you got to be honest with yourself
Mm-hmm.
and say, because I think we all go through, especially I know women, we go through that. You've been through something, and if you feel like you need to talk to, who am I gonna call?
You already know who to call.
Yeah, but if you call that person that's just about to pacify you, that's not going to help you one bit. It's not going to
Exactly.
help your relationship. But, the point I was trying to make is you have to teach your family how to treat your relationship.
That's right. That's right. And one of the things I love about what Carol said is, and what you just said, there are people that have known you for a while and they know you,
Mm-hmm.
and when you come to them with certain stories about your spouse,
Mm-hmm.
the first thing a wise person gonna ask you is, so what'd you do? Because they
Right.
know you know what I'm saying? So
Right.
how did you address that? Or
That's
how
right.
they're not gonna even deal with the spouse because the spouse isn't there and they only get one side of the story, and that's yours.
That's right.
And we never ever tell the truth about what we did in any scenario. We
Right.
always come across as the victim.
And it's very hard. Let's
Mm-hmm.
be quite honest. It's very hard for people to stay unbiased,
Mm-hmm. Right.
especially when somebody they
Well,
know that person, and definitely when it's your family member, because all the emotions kick in. The love, like, oh my goodness, this is my
and
what did he do? What she do?
and that depends on to what degree the violation
Yeah,
was, right?
definitely. But
But
you still,
there are some people in our lives, for instance, and I was gonna avoid saying this, but like my mom, for instance, the
mm-hmm.
one of the things I love about my mother is she
Yeah,
is so non-intrusive.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
Um, there have been times, and not with you, but there have been times when I've gone to my
He had to
mom
put that
to
disclaimer out there.
ask her questions. You know what I'm saying? Because
Mhm.
I was kind of lost or confused on some things, and she never would give me a direct answer. She would only ask me more questions
Questions to cause you to think.
to cause
But
me
see,
to
she's a
think it
woman of
out.
God. She's a mighty woman of
And so
God.
for me, that has been my example of advice. You
Yes.
see what I'm saying?
Yes.
And
Mhm.
speaking of that, just recently, probably about a few weeks ago, I went
Mhm.
to the barbershop and there was this guy in the barbershop. He said, "Man, I'm so glad to see you. I've been giving out your cards because so many people been coming up to me asking me relationship questions. I told them I'm gonna give you some bad advice. You better call Jimmy." And it was funny because he was like, "I'd be like, leave." You know what I'm
Listen,
saying?
because there's some advice that feels good at the
It
time,
does.
but has long term,
Boy,
consequences and
long term
devastation.
bad
And
consequences.
but Carol said something that I thought was so deep. I think she was referring to her first comment.
Mhm.
She was like, because you never wanted that mate to know you took their business outside of the home.
Exactly.
And see, that's the other thing. I think there's a fine line there between having a confidant
Mhm.
that you talk to that gives you wise counsel, talks you off the ledge, puts a mirror in front of you.
Mhm.
I think that's important.
Right.
But I think the spouse who is being told on, so to speak, if they're just like opening their mouths to people, random people, and telling their business, now you've moved to another level of now trust is broken.
Mhm.
What is sacred
Right.
in our relationship?
Exactly.
Because you telling everybody you need to sit tight
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
find, a few good men or women. And that's who you can talk to, because I don't think it's a good idea to just be so closed in your relationship that there are times you do need to throw out a lifeline and there is none.
Yeah, and again, I hope that we're giving this balance. We're not saying
Mm-hmm.
that you should not have someone whom you can talk to that can help you navigate some rough areas in your life.
Right.
We're talking about the people who are forcefully entering into
And
your relationship and
negatively having an
negatively, right?
impact on your
Forcefully and
relationship.
negatively. Look at the
Carol, you
comment.
see what Carol said? She
Oh,
said, Jesus, because he will never tell your secret. He won't, but he does use people
he does
eh,
use people
you-
to talk to
to
us.
talk to you. And I mean, you can pray, but let's be honest. This, I always say, this is called relationship real talk. I don't know about you guys, but I know in my life, I have been in a place where I talk to Jesus on a regular,
Mm-hmm.
fast, pray, and still felt like I was at the end of my rope.
Yep.
And if it wasn't for my girlfriends who were godly and held me up,
Mm-hmm.
told me the truth when I needed to hear it,
Mm-hmm.
and supported me through whatever difficulty I had to deal with, I don't know where I would be.
Right.
Well, I probably wouldn't be right here with you.
Right. Well, and I have a few people in my life who bring that same value to me. You know what I'm saying? And I don't care who you are. All of us need it because we weren't built to be an island. You know what I'm saying? We were
Right.
not built to be an island. We
Right.
were built to be a people of community. And so that is very, very important.
You
But
have to have discernment. That's
exactly.
the bottom line.
Well, I mean, and there are words that we have used, friends and confidants. Those aren't words we use lightly. Those
Right.
people were tested and tried.
People use friends lightly.
Exactly.
But a confidant is somebody, like you said, I always tell my kids, my own children, tried and tested over time.
That's
What
right.
that means is you have divulged some things and it has never come back to you.
Mhm.
That person never held it against your spouse. They
Mhm.
never treated them any differently because
Mhm.
they are truly there not to judge,
Mhm.
but to support and
Exactly.
enhance your relationship.
Exactly.
Those people exist. But I do agree. If you don't have that, then you continue. I mean, you're going to be with the Lord the whole time anyway, but you continue to ask him for that person, because otherwise it can be destructive.
Exactly. Look at this comment. Angela, this is so correct. She said correct. She was responding to what Carol said. She says correct. We must stay quiet. We will get over it and forgive our spouse, but then that person will remind you months later, trying to start drama again or think that you forgave too quickly. So in other words, and we've said this before,
Yeah.
you tell somebody your business, they mad and you over it.
You know what? I have always had the unwritten rule about my friend. I have great friends, but there are times where you have to kind of test the water. What you can't come back from,
Mhm.
or they can't come back from, because when you've gotten over it, you've been over it, they still got that crooked eye, like,
Mhm.
you
Right.
want to do such.
Right.
Ain't he the one that
Right.
ain't she the one that and don't get me wrong, it doesn't. Yeah, you did tell them that, but it wasn't for them to take it. That's not even a spirit of forgiveness.
Well, not only that, what that should be is a red flag for you.
Right.
When they do that, it should be a red flag. Now, don't get it twisted. You've been getting your head knocked off.
Mercy.
Now, hey,
That's a different
right.
situation.
But I mean, but still, what I'm saying is if a person is throwing stuff back up in your face when you and your significant other are trying to rectify whatever that issue was, and you all are trying to move forward, move to higher heights in your relationship,
Right.
and somebody keeps holding you all hostage from that last conversation you had with them,
Right. Right.
yeah, you
And
might. You're
yeah,
probably
and
not paying.
we have some questions here. We're going to get to that in just a second. But I wanted there's some great comments coming through.
Mm-hmm.
Rochelle said, "I've listened to people, but I always say I can't tell you what to do with your marriage. Talk it out with your spouse."
Right.
And you know what? If you don't, because I always like to let, even though we do what we do here,
Mm-hmm.
I like to let the Holy Spirit lead me.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
if I don't have words to say that I feel like are going to be uplifting and came from God, I'm a listening ear and I'm praying.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm doing.
Right.
Because if you picked up the phone to call me, I don't want to shut a door. And let me just say this, as we talk in transparency. In my first marriage, I was going through something major.
Mm-hmm.
And I recall um I didn't want to call my pastor. This was in my then marriage. I didn't want to call my pastor because he was just too close to the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want my then spouse to feel a type of way. So I called another spouse, another pastor, which shall remain unnamed, and was just broken. And I was like, here's my name. I need help. There's some things that have taken place in my marriage and I don't know what to do, but I know things are, we're at a breaking point. And he said, and I didn't hold it against him, but he said, "I'm just really busy right now. I have a lot going on. I don't have time to take you on." And honestly, yes, some of you might be thinking you could have called someone else, but that was the one person that I knew that my spouse at the time would be okay with. I couldn't think of anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like at my last desperate moment, the door was shut in my face.
Mm.
So sometimes if you can't give the advice and somebody's in dire straits, maybe you can refer them to
Mm-hmm.
someone who can.
Right. Well, I see that as the same as someone um telling me that they're in a bad place and they kind of allude to they want to commit suicide, and I go, well, you know what, I'm busy right now.
Oh, see,
uh
now that
I'll holler at you later. That's literally how I see that, because you never know where a person is
right,
emotionally
right.
when they're coming to you like that, so
It took a lot to get
y-
there.
man, listen, I am very, very sensitive to that, you know what I'm saying,
Right.
because I don't want to have that on my conscience, knowing, oh my God.
I could have done something. I
Right,
could have said
right,
something.
right. So
Let's
look,
look at some more comments.
Paul,
Paula, she
Paula's coming
says,
in. Read that.
"I've learned that what bothers me may not bother the person confiding in me.
Mm-hmm.
I try and listen and pray that I give good counsel. I say a quick prayer to ask God to give me the right things to say, and they may not receive it right then, but when they get it, it's great." Thank you, Paula.
Amen.
That's good stuff.
Amen.
Somebody said misery loves company. Who
Yep.
was that?
That's Carol.
Carol
Yeah.
said, "Now that is so true. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
people want you, hey, they want their friend back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if y'all break up. We can go back and hang out again." But Camille had a question, and I want to address that question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see her comment there or her
Mm-hmm.
question? She says, "Can you talk to single friends who are confidants, or stick to married friends?" Okay, baby, you want to hit this first, or you want me to hit it?
Well, you go ahead, and
And you'll.
I'll pull up the read.
Here's my thing, Camille. I truly believe that God can use anyone
Amen.
to reach you. Like there are times people didn't know what was going on, but they had a word for me and their status was not married.
Mm-hmm.
However, I would say many times married people do have there's a mutual understanding of what that looks like and what's going on, but I would much rather take advice from a wise person who is single than from a married person who is just, spitting out something and there's no substance. So when you're seeking a confidant, I would say you want to seek a confidant that is grounded, that has the same core beliefs and values as you, and can truly speak to your situation. What were you going to say?
I'm a piggyback,
Okay.
because I know it is within our nature to assume if they're not married, their advice is not going to be
Mm-hmm.
good, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to find the right
Baby,
words to
just say
say.
it, honey.
Well, I'm not suggesting that that should be a common practice.
Right. I
You know what I'm
agree.
saying?
I agree.
However, just like with a married person, you still have to weigh what they're saying.
Yeah.
Is it in line with the principles that you believe in as it relates to your relationship, right?
Right.
There have been times in my life where a person that was single was wise enough to say, man, listen, I hope you can work it out. And then there were people that were married was like, man, I don't know, I wouldn't take that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
Right.
so it's not a cut and dry. Yes, you should only talk to married people.
Right.
It depends on the person, because sometimes people don't listen. When somebody's giving you principle based information, their status doesn't matter,
Right.
if that makes any sense.
Right, I agree with you. If it applies to what you are currently going through, and
Right.
like you said,
It's
it
principle
is
based.
principle based. It is something that is solid.
I'm single,
Mhm.
ain't never been married, right? But you come telling me that and I know you're married, and you see this other fine guy. I'm like, that's not good. Don't
Yeah.
You shouldn't. I mean, so I'm single, right?
Right.
But my advice not good anymore, since I'm sitting here telling you, hey, aren't you married? You
Your
shouldn't even be looking
commitment.
at right. You shouldn't even be looking at another person
Remember
with
that
a lustful
husband,
eye.
that wife.
Right, right. If
Right.
somebody's saying something to you like that and they were single, that's some good advice.
That's accountability.
You know what I'm
And
saying?
and to be
Yeah.
honest with you, there's some things that are just, let's say it's a trust issue. Single people can speak on trust issues.
Mm-hmm.
As
Right,
it
because they
relates
deal
to,
with trust
because they've
issues.
dealt with trust issues.
May
But
not be
yes,
married
I
trust
do
issues.
agree with you,
Right.
Carol, that it's certainly impossible for someone to know exactly what it feels like to be married
Exactly.
unless you are married.
Right.
Betty says, take into consideration that when you seek people for counsel, you're talking to them where they are and in at that moment.
Right.
I do want to ask a question. Let's put this second question out, baby.
Okay.
Guys, I want to hear from you guys. How much involvement do you think a family member should have in your relationship? How involved should they be in your relationship? Some of y'all are probably thinking 0, none whatsoever. And then some of you might be thinking full involvement. That's my family. That's blood. They've been there from the beginning. They got me, my back, ride or die. That whole piece. What do you guys think about that? How much involvement should a family member have in your relationship?
Betty thinks like me. Minimal.
Well, you heard what Betty said. First of all, she messed up letting Auntie get into the situation.
Right. Minimal, Betty.
Minimal.
That's what I say. Minimal.
Listen, I truly believe that the relationship is between you and your significant other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when you talk about digging real deep into the situation, you have to be careful.
This is
Camille.
Funny. Camille said,
Thank
you. My family talks too much.
Laugh out loud. And,
Yeah.
and let me just speak for the family members that feel like they're really doing good
And trying to be helpful.
Like they really think that their heart is in the right place.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, you got to teach your family how to treat your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And at first they might be a little salty about it.
Right. Yeah, of course.
But at the end of the day, I think what we have to remember, when you're getting married, the two become one. And so I think people struggle, is a dissonance that takes place.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wait a minute. This was the family that's known me all my life since
Mm-hmm.
I was born.
Mm-hmm.
We've been connected. And now I now have to be connected to someone new who is not my blood, but we are one.
Right.
And so what happens is you really have to establish new things for you and your relationship and what that's going to look like. Because I think most people, y'all be honest, most people get married and the family situation, if it didn't already take place while y'all were dating, they just leave it to day in, day out interactions. They're not ready for it. Sometimes it catches them off guard, like, I've never seen this side of my mom. I didn't know she would get in my business like this.
Exactly.
My mom's the sweetest person,
right.
But yet she's giving your wife hell.
Right. Right. And we discussed that too when we were talking about this show. My mom and I are extremely close.
Yeah, you're a mama's boy.
But if my mom was crossing the line and made you feel some type of way, I would talk to my mom like, hey,
And baby, I would hope you would, because I love your mother to death.
Right. I would talk to her and I'd be like, Mom, what's going on with that? Now, depending on how mom responds, gonna determine the next level of how we're going to have a
How we
discussion.
proceed from there.
Right. Because there are people who take on a position as if, hey, I ain't did nothing wrong and would do it again. And yet, and so that's why I said earlier in the show, either, but I wouldn't even put you in the position to have to take care of it, because I would. You know what I'm saying? I would take care of that thing, and it would be well taken care
And you
of.
know what? I would appreciate that. And I think anybody would appreciate that. But let me tell y'all something. We talking about mamas like all mamas are just sweet and nice. I'm not talking about anybody's mama who's listening right now. However, there are some mamas out there who don't have good intentions.
Right.
This has been my son. And
Yeah.
and just because I'm saying mamas, it could be daddies too.
Right.
I'm just using this as an example. That is my son, and you pretty much have taken him away from me, especially if it was a son that was taking care of his mom financially, everything, and now the attention
is no longer on her.
There's like that relationship, even though it's a everything is, there's no craziness going on between the mother and son, but it can almost seem like a love relationship, especially if that mother does not have someone.
Right.
And so,
and even if she does,
yeah, but when
sometimes the husband be like, "Girl, won't you
leave him alone?" But at least he can keep her at at bay. But when it's just her, she's like, "This is my baby. This is my son," and the son is like scared to check her, and the wife is like, she did this, and God forbid you don't believe your spouse when they tell you something has taken place, because then is where the cracks will start,
right,
in the foundation, because trust is broken.
Foundation and in the armor.
There's a lot of good comments and questions. Go ahead, go for it.
Let's start from the top. Do
you marry your spouse?
Yes. Carol asked, do you marry your spouse or the family? Unfortunately, we marry both. We really do.
Well, let me. Can I? Go ahead. You finish.
Let me. I'm gonna elaborate.
Okay.
We marry both because, as most of us who are married know, that the family's coming with the territory. And what if you have a spouse who is genuinely close to his or her family?
Right.
So you're gonna be involved. However, who takes precedence once you all get married is still your spouse. The family doesn't. So being able to put things in the proper perspective is still the key thing that we have to focus on. And I think that's where a lot of people struggle.
Right. And I think, that saying, you don't just marry your spouse, you marry the family.
Yep.
We use that word marry loosely, but let's be honest about this. Married in the biblical sense is between two people.
Right.
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 However, that the family of the person you're marrying becomes your family.
Exactly.
So you are intertwined. So I agree with you with that. However, that line of demarcation takes place when the family, and everybody has to understand, just because I've married your son, your brother, your what have you, doesn't mean you have the same say so in this union as these two individuals do. I think that's key, because people could use that as like, you married her, you married us too. Oh yeah. Wait, pause. Let's clarify that.
No.
Yeah.
I didn't marry you.
Right.
I married her. You just came along as a
your family.
Your family, right?
Your family, but your family.
But you're not my wife, and you're not
right. You don't have the same role,
right,
as we do, and I think that's important to understand. That was a great
look at Angela's
question. Let's go with Angela next.
She said none. She's referring to how much. She's answering the question. How much involvement should a family member have in your relationship? She says none. My mom loves me, but does not interfere at all. She always says, pray about it. I appreciate that because my spouse does not feel uncomfortable when she is around. I love that. And there's nothing like, one, a praying mother. Okay. Two, there's nothing like a mother who can give you wise counsel. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
There's nothing like it.
And you know what's hard for people? Let's be honest. Because you're so emotionally tied, like especially parents and their children. Like my daughter told me today, she sent me a message. She works at a restaurant as a server, and she was like, today was my worst day at work. This one of the patrons was so rude to me. And I was already texting like, who was it? What happened? Getting ready to grab my keys, my purse. Like I wasn't really about to grab my keys. Well, it just depended on what the story was. But needless to say, that emotional connection just triggers.
Mm-hmm.
And it really is a struggle to not get involved when you see your loved one hurting.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what you said, I don't know if you said it on the air here or when we were talking. I love what you said about your mom, that she doesn't just even give you the resolution.
Mm-hmm.
She's asking you
So
questions
you can figure
so
it out for
you can
yourself.
figure it out for
Right.
yourself. That way, it doesn't even become a thing of you said.
Mama said.
Right.
Right.
What mama did was ask enough questions for you to reflect on what's going
And
on.
figure it out on your own. Look at
Camille
Camille.
asked a question, and we can answer
She said,
that.
"Can you guys talk about blended families whenever you have the opportunity?"
That sounds like next week's
Mm, sounds like next week's topic.
topic.
Yep.
I mean, we've talked about it before on different platforms, but we certainly would, we wouldn't mind talking about it at all. So yes, Camille, we'll be more than
And
happy to
Camille,
do
if
that.
you have a specific thing about blended families that you would like for us to cover, let us know, because we, of course, our goal is to give enough information where the listeners and viewers can actually
Yeah.
take it home and use it
Yeah,
to their advantage.
because let's be honest, people, and you can give me some likes or what have you if you agree. Now more than ever, we are dealing with more blended families.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the past, you had the family of, the leave it to beaver, leave it to, that whole thing
Right.
where we want to make it look, everything to look right. We want everything to be perfect. And people hang in there with situations
Mm-hmm.
that normally nowadays people are like deuces. To be quite honest with you, probably leave way before they should because they're
Mm-hmm.
not willing to do the work.
Right.
And when I
Right.
say they, each person individually,
Right. Right.
there's work that needs to be done.
Well, let's
But
look at another one. Lauren Frazier. That's my girl.
yes, yes.
Read that one for me, man.
Yeah, hold on. Betty had me laughing. Say it louder for the people in the back. All right, here's what Lauren says. She says, none. Basically, she's saying they shouldn't have no.
No.
Go,
Right.
go ahead and put the question back up there
It's up there.
for the people. Oh, okay.
The question's there.
And then put the question that's on the table. You know, none. I do not let my mom know anything, especially if me and my husband are at odds. One thing I always want to do is to paint a positive picture of my spouse, whether we are good or bad, because I don't want to give my mom any opportunity to have an opinion of my spouse.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate your candor.
Yeah.
The question is, how much involvement should a family member have in your relationship?
And then she went on to say, my spouse does the exact
Same
thing
thing
with his mother. And that's how it should be.
And let me just say this. I'm just going to address the part of I always want to paint a positive picture. And I think that is healthy. However, I will say this. I do remember in my first marriage, I was so, and I was telling you this today,
Mhm.
I was so like, my mother loved him so much because he was such a Christian and all these like wonderful things she would always say about him. So when I was going through stuff and I really needed her prayers, I never said anything, even up until the point where we were separated and she was coming to visit. And I was like, oh, the gig is up. I got to tell her because she's going to notice he's not in the home. So sometimes you gotta make that balance of reality, but yet without throwing your spouse under the bus. I
Right.
get it. I
Right.
totally get it.
Right.
Annie, she says, my husband and I have been married for 30 years. His sisters and I didn't get along until 10 years ago. Wow. Annie, I would love to find out what was the turning point.
Yes, I was
What
just thinking
that's what
that.
you were thinking?
Like, what turned 10
What
years ago
turned
that bond
right.
that had you guys just create a bond?
Yeah, because that's a long time to
Mhm.
not be to be at odds.
Right.
I am for him and not his family. And let me just say this. Some things I want to comment on that 30-year situation. I always say to people, if that person was to pass away tomorrow, even
Mhm.
though that sounds very dramatic, um, would it have been worth it to hold on to whatever it
Right.
was, and we'll talk about in the tips what you can do when you're in situations where you just can't find resolution
Mhm. Mhm.
in the situation.
Here's another one. My husband and I are of different races. My family embraces my husband and my choices. Some of my husband's family was not so welcoming. I am so glad my husband put a
Yes.
stop to it and said love has no color.
Let me tell you. Let
Amen.
me tell you.
Listen, let me tell
That's
y'all something.
powerful.
If you want to, if we want to forge a healthy relationship, let me tell you the first thing you can do and it's gonna get it on the right track. Give it a good, healthy start, and that's making your spouse feel secure and comfortable in that relationship.
Yeah.
When you do that off the rip, and normally when we say, "I got you, babe. I'm gonna protect you. I got your back." God gonna allow a situation to come up to test it.
And guess what? That I got you looks like me addressing that family member
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
that's trying to get in there.
That's exactly what I'm
And
saying.
here is, I applaud, who was that said that?
That was
Rochelle.
Rochelle's.
I applaud your husband because he saved you guys a lot of headache and heartache in your relationship.
That's right.
Because you would have started to have resentment and have that crooked eye on him, like, why wouldn't you check that?
Right.
Why wouldn't you come to my defense? And my family has opened up,
Right.
their arms to
And let me
you.
just say this too, speaking to the fact that this is a biracial couple. I mean, that in and of itself has stressors. You know what I'm saying? Because we never know what the other parents or family members are gonna feel
That's right.
about a person
That's right.
outside of their race.
That's right.
And there is nothing more comforting than to know that your spouse has your back.
That's right.
I don't care that you all are my family. What you will not do is disrespect the person I love.
That's right.
And so over time, when your significant other takes that approach with their family, over time they get to know you, and then all of that stuff passes away in most cases.
In most cases, I
in
agree.
most cases, right? Unless you just have a hateful group of people.
Right. Are we ready for that last question?
I'm ready when you're ready.
Yeah, because I think we were able to hit the comments. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. All right. How do you set your family member or members straight? We're talking about the ones who keep trying to get in your business. We talked about, well, the biological family member should be the one to address it
initially.
I still
agree.
But
Order of operation.
But I want to hear from the people. How are you going to address it? Let's say it's Betty says firmly. And here's the thing.
And quickly.
Firmly for one might look like something else to someone else, right?
Right.
So that's a little I want to hear exactly what people would do. We have a couple comments coming through. I would love to read it. Do you see the comment from, is it Annie?
Annie, yeah.
When their dad got sick and I brought him into our home and took care
of
him until he passed away and realized so much wasted time. Wow. Was that was referring to maybe it had to do with is she the one that's responding to the 30-year?
I think so. Yes.
Let's go back.
She has to be.
She has to be.
Yes,
it was her. So her original comment was, my husband and I have been married for 30 years and his sister and I didn't get along until 10 years ago. Okay, so the husband and his sister's dad had passed, but you were the one that took him in. You know what they saw? They saw love.
Yep.
They saw a genuineness from you that showed them your heart, and your heart was in the right place as it related. Sometimes you never know what it'll take, and sometimes it's death. Betty says, being single all this time has taught me well. And let me just say this, during the times I was single, I really wanted to, and that's why, for those of you who are single and your friends, sometimes people are like, they do stuff for married couples, but they don't do stuff for single people. If you're single and you're listening, can we get a shout out or something?
Right.
I'm single and I'm learning. I'm single and I'm here for it.
Right.
Whatever you want to put, give us some love. But to me, that is the time to fill your toolbox.
Exactly.
That is the time to let me get as much information as I can. Yes, I know the application might be a little different, when it's in my marriage, but I need to hear and see from people who have had relationships, whether it be successful. What can I do for it to be successful? What shouldn't I do?
And you can already look for potential potholes and red flags and things that you are already equipped better than the average single person, because you've taken the time to, as you stated, fill your toolbox and broaden your horizons on the things that are out there. Because I listen, just before I got married, guess who I was talking to?
Who?
Married people.
That's right.
Because I wanted to get an idea of what I was about to get into.
That's right. Babe, it's so deep that you say that. And Camille was like, "Me, I'm here and I'm learning." Girl, she's claiming her man. And let me tell you, during the time I was single, and especially it actually transitioned from the time I was divorcing and then single,
Mhm.
I wanted to be whole.
Right.
I didn't want to, I wasn't trying to run into another relationship, but
Mhm.
whenever that came, I wanted to go through counseling. So I did go to stay in counseling. The same counselor that that counseled me, I stayed in counseling to do like Iyanla always says, do the work because I don't want to carry what do we say, residuals
Mhm.
into sometimes it's near
Baggage.
some yeah baggage, sometimes it's near impossible, but still as much work as you can do, this is the time. Let me talk to the ladies. Let me just, where's the camera? Let me look in the camera for a
Right there.
second. This is so important, single ladies. Don't get me wrong, just because I'm married, been single, understand what it feels like to not have someone. But I guarantee you, once you start to do self analysis and work within yourself, God is already working on your behalf on the other part.
Right.
You don't have to fret. You don't have to rush. You don't have to chase.
Mhm.
All those things will come in alignment.
Mhm.
And sometimes, we don't know. God could be like, right now, this is what I want for you for this period of time
Mhm. And God could
or until
also be
eternity.
simply saying you're not ready.
Yeah, you're not ready. But so many times we focus on the goal that we don't think about the journey
Right.
and what it takes. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah.
Carol says she's single. All right, Carol, we appreciate you listening to us. She says that's my goal, being whole, being ready. Camille, that is so right. You want to be in 100% situation.
That's right. And I'm glad you said that because I think a lot of times we fail to understand what's really happening in the spirit realm of things. In the
Ooh,
spirit realm of things, God is saying, okay, you take care of what you can take care of. So in other words, you invite me in so we can work out those things that's within you that would harm your relationship.
that's right.
And while you're doing you, I'm already working on who I have
Ooh,
designed and prepared
prepare
for
for
you.
you.
You don't have to worry about doing that. I'm going to take care of that.
Ooh,
And the way we mess up is when we try to help God do what God can only do.
baby, can I please piggyback off of that
Yes.
comment right there? I heard a sermon once, and in that sermon, the pastor said, beware of the demon of companionship.
Mm.
Ooh, when he said that, I got goosebumps because what he was referring to, and he was single himself, so it was even more impactful. Sometimes when you are single for so long, the basic human need for companionship
Mm-hmm.
overtakes you, and you in essence convince yourself that you deserve it.
Okay.
I deserve to have this relationship. I deserve to feel whole and have this compassionate
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
feeling with this person. And in actuality, you got to ask yourself, are you rushing it? Is
Right.
this what God sent you, or is this what you sent you?
And and and
Because that's what you were looking
and
for.
I'm gonna look in the camera and say this, because here's the reality. Even for us that are married, in the conditions that we're in now, here is the one problem we all struggle with. Is it possible that I could be the problem? So if you're single and you've been single for a long time, it's not always by choice that people have been single for a long time. They adopt that mentality, but no, it was some of your behaviors that made you um undesirable to certain people for extended periods of time. You know what I'm saying? And even for us in marriages, we always find it super convenient to blame the spouse. And
Mm-hmm.
we never really look at ourselves to say, I'm not suggesting that the spouse didn't do anything wrong. But
Mm-hmm.
what I am also
Mm-hmm.
saying is that you didn't always do things right.
Right.
So we have to be able to entertain our role in why we're in the current condition that we're in. And
Oh,
when we do that,
that's so deep.
then we're literally opening up a gateway to grow.
Can I tag team that? Can I
Yes.
give me
Go
some?
ahead.
Let me tell y'all this as he was talking, what came over me. For those of you that are wondering, is this me? Usually, when you go from relationship to relationship,
Mm,
and that same thing or things continue to come to the surface, there is one thing that is in common with all those things, and that is you.
you.
Because if you're dating people from different walks of life and the same thing keeps coming up, you have no choice.
There's your sign.
There's your sign. You have no choice but to look within and say, you can't keep saying, oh, all these people, and this person said this, and this person said that, but I ain't stunned him. Let me move on to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
And you never deal with it. You never unpack it. You never process it.
Mm-hmm.
Then all you're doing, and oh, here is the fatal blow, is God could actually have had somebody for you,
but he ain't gonna.
That was the person for you. But because you did not do the work,
God is like, I'm not going to do that to him.
I'm not going to do that to them.
That's right.
And God forbid two people are in that same situation where they could have been good for each other, but messed it up because they didn't do the work of working out those character flaws.
Listen to this one. It says, Camille said this, sometimes it is us, and it took maturity and vulnerability to finally face it. Camille, let me tell you something. All of us are guilty of this. It is so easy for me to say it's Rachel and not address how I may have contributed to how Rachel is acting or responding. Even though on Rachel's end, she has total control of her own actions.
Right.
But I cannot dismiss what I may have done or said or didn't do that could have caused her grief. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And sometimes we don't want to take ownership of who we are in every situation.
Oh, and sometimes, babe, we tend to blame the one that acts out the most.
Right.
As if because the way they acted out was inappropriate, rightly so, we completely throw out the baby with the bathwater and putting all the blame on them and don't identify it could be the passive aggressive things that were said, done, the way you poke at that person.
And now that person blows up and now everybody mad at the explosion.
Right. And they're mad at the explosion. But I just thought about something that I was saying when I was talking about it may be you. Ladies and gentlemen, there are some times when you are matriculating through relationships, there is something that like reverberates within you that attracts you to the very thing that you no longer need.
Right.
So even if you don't work that out, you will continue to attract it.
Exactly.
Isn't that to me, that just blows my mind. This is something that has been proven.
Well, it goes to, it speaks. Okay, here's the spiritual and the practical to what you just said. God says you will reap what you sow.
Have mercy.
Right?
Have mercy.
Then on the practical side, it says what goes around comes around. And listen, and I think I've shared this with a lot of people. What we're dealing with today is the results of decisions we made or failed to make yesterday. Very few human beings want to take total ownership of our decisions and the consequences that follow them. You see what I'm saying? We'll blame God for a whole bunch of stuff, and God's like, whoa, I didn't have anything to do with that. That is the result of a decision you made or a decision you failed to make. You know, and sometimes we don't really grasp the full nuances of why my life keeps ending up this way.
And Maciel, I hope I said your name right, Maciel Herndon, she said, why is this so? I think she's referring to what I said about you end up attracting the very thing that you want to avoid. And you know what's really sad? It's because we have a love affair with the flaws within us. We have a relationship.
Because it becomes our story.
It becomes your story. But sometimes, let me tell you something. It could be the thing you didn't even know you were carrying within you because of the energy that you're putting out there.
Right.
That's the thing. Sometimes you're aware of it. Sometimes you may not be aware of it. But many times people are not even aware of what they are carrying. But because you have a relationship with that thing is part of what makes you who you are.
Exactly.
That is what you end up putting out there. I've always heard this saying, you teach people how to treat you by what you accept, by what you affirm, by what you put up with. So I'm telling you, it's a powerful thing that's going on, you know, beneath the surface.
So let me give a slight example, because I do want Ms. Herndon to understand what we're saying. Have you all?
She said yes.
Do you all know that person that says, "I keep it 100"? Because I think we all got somebody in our lives that
Mm.
love to keep it 100 until the 100 is about them.
Uh-oh.
Then they
Uh-oh.
want to keep it 85. They want to keep it 50.
50,
They want to keep it
0.
right.
Let's not
Nobody
talk about
see
it.
that's that energy, and it keeps. God is always trying to correct us. God never forces any change, but he allows situations to encourage us to change. Right. So when we refuse to change, we keep going. It's like school. If you fail the fifth grade, guess what? You're gonna repeat the fifth grade.
Unless they want to socially promote you because you're 15.
Right, because you're 20 now, you're still in
your
fifth
fifth
grade.
grade.
But
yeah, I get your point.
in most cases, when we fail the fifth grade, we repeat the fifth grade, right? Life is the same way. When you keep failing,
you don't advance.
To learn, you do not advance. You get older, you may change jobs, you may have another relationship, but you are it's almost like you stop moving
right
maturely.
As far as maturity goes.
Right,
yeah.
As far as maturity goes. As it relates to maturity, you just freeze.
And to other people, everything looks different because it looks different on the outside.
That's right.
But y'all, the longer I live on this earth, I realize it is not the concrete things. It is the abstract things. It's the things you cannot see. It's the things you cannot touch. Those are the things that beset us.
Yes.
You can cover all this up all you want. But you are going to carry that thing within you.
Because that's what it is. You're masking it anyway. You understand what I'm saying? And that's what we do. We mask it so nobody else will know that I have this blemish.
And you know what?
Until they get to know you.
And see, Sean said having a love affair with the flaws within you. Wow. And the reason why we would rather have a love affair with it, because we don't want to admit that we're flawed.
Right.
We don't. That doesn't feel good. And so living in transparency, you actually free yourself of that, and you can actually grow and move on from that.
Why is transparency so relevant? And and that was a rhetorical question. The reason that it's relevant is because, like you said, it frees you. It no longer holds you captive to your darkness.
He who the sun sets free
is free indeed. But here's the deal. When you're living in a transparent life, what you learn to do is, once you identify a flaw, you quickly clean it up because you know you're being seen. When we don't live in transparency, we thrive in the dark. It's that undercover dirt we're doing, the stuff that nobody can see. And so we hide that stuff. We got that stuff under there. So we cover up the exterior, but internally, we're miserable.
We're miserable, and it's destroying you. It's destroying you, and it will destroy relationships. And just to bring that thing back full circle, many times the people who are trying to get into your relationship, the family members, sometimes they have their own things that they carry.
Right.
And they feel as if they have to continue to impress or press upon another relationship. And you got to know, you got to fall back. So if you're the person, those of you who are listening, if you're that person that you know you've been a little bit too involved, you've got to fall back and fall down on your knees.
Right.
As opposed to trying to take over.
And if you're the person in the relationship and you have that family member who who just don't seem to want to quit, we have to address them.
Yeah.
We have to address them and say, hey, listen, I love you to death. And in my heart of hearts, I think you mean well.
Yes, I know you love me.
I know you love me.
I know you. Yeah.
However,
some
of the stuff you say
is damaging.
It's super damaging, and it is not beneficial to the relationship.
Right.
2, the person you're talking about is someone I love. Yeah, I may have been upset with them and they may get on my nerves at times, but the way that you're talking about them is not the way that I want them talked about.
Right.
So I'm going to ask you nicely.
Fall back. And here, let me talk to the people who, if you're the one who, if you're the one in the relationship who it's your family member, your blood family member or friend, you have to speak up for your spouse. Because if somebody hurt your spouse, they should be hurting you.
There you go.
Because the two have become one. Angela said it's so hard to hide all the time. It is a lot of work to pretend all the time. You may not recognize yourself sometime, but you got to be true to yourself. And let me tell you something, when you become true to yourself, what happens inward comes out. There's something about you that people will start to recognize. They can't even put their finger on it.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why they
You
can't put
different.
their finger on it is because it wasn't external, it was an internal change.
That's right.
But the freedom that you get, the way you live is different when you live a life of transparency and realness.
The transparency frees your mind.
Oh,
That's what people can't see. There has been a shift in your mind. And once the mind, guys, listen, why do you think God says once that brain changes, how you think?
Because it controls everything else.
It controls every single thing else. And so once we alter our mind, renew our minds, everything else will, that freedom that people see, all that is a freedom of our mind. We no longer feel bound by what people think. We no longer feel bound by mistakes we've made. We will forgive ourselves. Then we're free to forgive others. And then that gives us a life that is full of joy rather than embarrassment, shame, or hurt or anger.
That's right.
So now we can live free.
That's
then
right.
You move lighter.
You're light on your feet.
Yeah, because hey, listen, I'm free of that.
Listen, this is a perfect segue. The question you have up: how do you set your family members straight, guys? We have some tips that we're gonna share with you, and feel free to continue to comment. You can write this down. You can type it in your phone or your iPad, your device, because we want to be able to help set some people free with the relationships that might be taking place. So number one, press the reset button. I love the reset button. Like, as an educator, you could have had a bad day in the classroom, but guess what? There is a tomorrow.
Right.
I've had time to sleep on it. I've had time to pray on it. We're going to press the reset button and change some things. So that's something that has to happen between you and your spouse. You know what? Things are not right. We've got to have a new start. Okay? So, once you press the reset button, now it's time for you and your spouse to put your heads together.
Okay.
Yes, there we go.
That was good and corny.
Yeah, no, I couldn't help it. I felt that in my spirit. Okay. So put your heads together and set realistic and clear boundaries together. Basically, have that tough conversation like, baby, I love your mom, but every time she comes over here, she has to grab the broom and start sweeping the porch, or she's wiping stuff down. And I appreciate your help, but no, thank you. Like, that's offensive to me. I'm the woman of this home. However, you don't have to be ugly about it.
Right.
But have a plan together. That way, you don't have to continue to move through it by yourself, the person that was hurt.
Right.
Or if it's both of you, and then you have that discussion. Me and my husband talked about this. Is that something that one person needs to have, or all three of you?
Right.
Because let's say that person is a little trifling and may not be able to be trusted. Let's say mama is going to say anything because she don't want her son to look at her in a bad way.
Right.
Then the wife might need to be there to hold her accountable. She may not be saying as much. The son should be facilitating it, but going in knowing, I am here. God put me on this earth to help protect my wife, not just physically, but emotionally, the emotional parts of her. So that's number two. Number one, press the reset button. Number two, set realistic and clear boundaries together. Numero three, don't allow your bond with that family member to get in the way of the principle that was violated.
Yeah, I have to speak on this one.
Please speak on it, because I spoke on the first.
So what are we saying? What are we saying when we say do not allow your bond with with that family member to get in the way of the principle? In other words, this is what we're saying.
Are we gonna act it out for him? You want to act it out for him?
No,
okay.
no.
Okay, I thought
time is
baby. They ride or die. It's 7:10. We got this.
What we're saying is sometimes our love and loyalty to the family member can be kryptonite to us when it comes to dealing with the issue at hand. We will allow that thing to keep going because we are so committed to our mom or our dad or our sister or our brother or our uncle or our aunt or that best friend. Some of us, and here's the struggle. The struggle is this is what most people are saying in their head, and I know this because I've asked, what was so hard for them? Well, I've known them 40 years of my life, and I'm 40. I've known them 50 years, and I've only been married to my spouse for 5 or
Right,
10 or
right.
15. Well, listen, let me be the bearer of bad news. When you said I do to your spouse, they became numero
They
uno.
moved in
They
position.
moved in position and
Yeah.
priority.
Yes, yes.
So you don't have to feel guilty about the adjustment that you made in life and the place that they took in your life, because the same thing took place in their lives. Well, whoever was primary before you became secondary or third, depending
Right.
on how
Or
things
tertiary,
right.
right.
So we cannot allow that bond with that family member or friend, allow, to prevent us from taking care of a situation that needs to be taken care of.
You need go and drink some water, baby. But
You heard that?
yeah, baby, I think we all hear it. They can see you too. Just drink that water right there. But here's what my husband's a mess. Like, we're human. Stuff get caught in your throat, baby. I got you. Y'all, it's gonna be all right. I gotta look out for him. I
Oh,
am
let
his
me
help
let me
me.
say hello to my friend Heath. Heath, I see you on there. He said you guys are awesome.
Thank you. What I was gonna say, here's what it looks like. Let's say, and Jimmy's mom is amazing. She's wonderful. She's nothing like this. But let's say I said to Jimmy, that she was talking to me a type of way and I didn't appreciate it, right? And he goes to talk to his mom, and he's like, "Mom, I was talking to Rachel. I'm really concerned about some things, and I really appreciate if you don't talk to her this way." And then mom is like, "But baby, I love you. I mean, I wouldn't do anything like that to hurt you. I had the best of intentions."
Mhm.
And then
Jimmy would be like, "Well, mom, do you realize that what you said actually hurt my wife?"
right, but baby, I mean, but I wasn't trying to hurt her. I think she's just too sensitive. I mean,
No, mama.
I tell it like it is. I like to tell the truth.
Mama, you
Yes,
tell it like it is, right?
right.
So that means you gave me some of that in my DNA, right? So let me tell you like it is. Don't do that again. That was rude and it was disrespectful. It not only hurt my wife, it hurt me too.
Right. And here's what just happened with that. Of course, Jimmy was not going to take any stance but the stance of he's going to stay focused on what he has to tell his mom. But in real life, a lot of people can't do that when it comes to that person.
Mm-hmm.
I said mom, but it could be a sister, it could be a brother, it could be an auntie. Like, don't you know that was the one that, was there for me when this and that and
Right.
this and that? But you got to stick to the principle or you'll end up with a rat going down a rabbit hole, all because you love that person so much and you're so emotionally tied to them that you don't want to hurt them.
Mm-hmm.
The greater good, do what's going to work out for the greater good of your relationship and ultimately the health of the family at large.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though they may not like what you said at the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
down the line, that conversation, it was for the health of the whole entire relationship.
And even if they don't, what is developed in that moment is a thing called respect.
Right. They're
You
not
you
just gonna rush up in there
yeah, you set
any
a
kind of
boundary,
way.
right? But look at what Pastor Mitchell said. He says when they know it hurts you, it makes the difference. So if you hurt, if somebody in my family hurts Rachel and I address them because and I let them know that bothered me too. Rachel then knows that my husband got my back, and then that family member or friend says, "Oh wow, oh I hurt him too."
And I know you've covered me.
Right.
That's
Well,
the
but
thing.
think about it.
Mhm.
I covered two bases. Now my family member knows you didn't just hurt her, you hurt me too.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Because
And
you
so
hurt her.
now, if they really love me, they're gonna back off.
Right.
Or if they're really committed to what they want to do,
That's right.
then I already know where to put you.
And that leads us perfectly to the fourth tip. So we said press the reset button. You and your spouse or significant other have to set realistic and clear boundaries together.
Mm-hmm.
Don't allow yourself to get distracted or pulled in because of the bond with your family members. Stick to the principle. And then, unfortunately, guys, let's be truthful.
Yep.
Sometimes the resolution doesn't work out the way you want to. You could have a toxic family member
Yep.
or friend that literally, if you let them continue, they will ruin your relationship. So number 4 is be ready to love them from a distance, even if they don't accept or respect your decisions. And
Right.
and sometimes it might take that for a period of time
Mhm.
before maybe that family member like, wow, she was serious.
Or he was
He
serious.
was
Right.
serious. He really loves, she really respects.
Mhm.
And you know what? I have no choice to respect. And don't let the grandbabies get in, because I really want to spend time with my grandbabies. I really want to have a healthy relationship. And those are some tough conversations. We call them critical conversations,
Mhm.
but they
Mhm.
have to happen,
They have to.
because people always think because you're Christian, that means everything goes back to the way it was. It wasn't right the way it was.
Right.
That's
Right.
why something came up to begin with. You have to set that new boundary for that new normal for your family and the relationships. So you might have to say, Mama, I love you, but if you can't respect Daddy, if you can't respect BFF, if you can't respect, then this is what we're going to have to do.
Listen, Angela said, happened in my household. Lord, thank God my husband handled it correctly. Father-in-law was escorted out of the
Uh,
house. Listen,
not escorted.
I'm gonna try to tell you that would have been me. Cause listen,
Wait,
I gotta live here.
Jimmy, how you going to escort them?
Hmm?
Because I don't trust. I could see maybe her husband escorting the father-in-law properly, but I don't know how you going to escort somebody out.
The only way you
Oh,
escort them out when they acting a fool.
and what's that?
Hmm?
And what's that?
Real quickly.
Are you going to use any other
Tools,
tools?
depending on the person.
Ooh, y'all pray for me. Y'all pray for me. And he said there is a new arrangement. I know that's right. And
Yeah.
and the enemy will try to make you feel like, that guilt trip of like, but that's your mama,
Mm-hmm.
but that's your auntie,
That's your.
that's your grandma,
Yep.
that's your
Don't
rebuke
fall for it.
rebuke all that, because at the end of the day, it could be that change that you all needed in
Mm-hmm.
order for the family to move in a positive direction.
Guys, I pray, and I think Rachel agrees with me. We pray that you got something out of this. We all have family members that try to, barge in when we don't need them to, but now we should have some tools and techniques to
And
deal with that
sometimes they're
properly.
well-meaning. Sometimes they're well-meaning. Go and get you some more water, baby. they're, they're well-meaning. They really want what's best for you, and you can decipher that. But you just gotta. I always like to say, you kind of gotta temper it. You gotta keep an eye on that so that it doesn't weave its way. And like Lauren was saying, you can't share everything
That's right.
because you don't want that thing to come back and bite you in the butt.
Yeah, voluntarily or involuntarily. I heard that. Guys, look, thank you all so much for taking this time out and joining us in our living room. We truly, truly do appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week. And look, in between now and then, if you have a friend or it's you and your significant other are going through some trying areas and you just want someone to give you or to help you navigate that process, please, please, please feel free to reach out. God has given us a mission, and this is our purpose,
To speak the truth.
and we truly, truly do enjoy it. Some jobs are a burden, but this one isn't. I truly am
It's a joy.
energized
Mm-hmm.
to do what God has called us to do in this ministry, in
And
this part of the vineyard.
I want to, you're welcome. People are saying thank you. Yes, the group is growing. It's getting much bigger. Continue to share. I'd like to thank, the single people who were on here and who were willing to put in the work and understand you can be part of this conversation, even if you're not married.
Mhm.
I want to thank Camille because
What's
Camille,
up, Camille?
yeah, Camille did the post and she was, talking about things that married people would need to, or someone would need to know before they get married. And one
Mhm.
of the things was keep family out of your business. And
Right.
I could not let that settle with me. I was
Right.
like, we need to talk about
Yeah,
this.
you definitely said that.
And there's several things we're gonna need to talk about, and we're gonna come back around with the blended family situation.
So, guys, look, we want to give some
Love
shout
y'all.
outs.
They just sending us love. Can y'all
Mount
put some hearts?
Calvary. Mount Calvary, they have been showing up since the day
Yes,
we
they
had
have. They have.
Pastor Mitchell live on the show. Guys, we truly, truly do appreciate you all. And we just ask you all, please, please, please share these lives with other people. And we're gonna do a contest here soon.
We
We're
are.
gonna do a contest, yeah.
We're,
And here's gonna be the contest. The contest is going to be
okay.
whoever can bring on the most people on one of the lives. That's what we're gonna do.
How
We'll
are
put
we
it out.
going? How are we gonna know? They're gonna put next to it who invited
Yeah,
them.
yeah. So
Okay.
whoever you've invited to the live that's new, they have to put in the comment who invited them.
So we
to
can
this
probably get a
live.
gift card and
We'll
a
get
T-shirt.
we'll
or
get a
something.
gift card or something like that. Oh, don't say T-shirt. But
Baby, you hadn't sent Angela her T-shirt.
Rachel, why you gotta call me out?
I could have sworn you
Rachel,
got that and took it to the post office
no,
that
no, no, no.
day.
I went to get the T-shirt made from another person, and they tried to charge me an arm and a leg.
You know what? At this point, you better cut off your arm and give it to her because you know how I am about stuff
Angela,
like that. We
Angela, I got
promised
you,
it
girl.
to
I
her.
promise you, I got
We
you.
need to follow through.
I got you.
Yes.
I
Carol
got
said, "Thank you so much for aiding in her growth. You are quite welcome. We are all in this together."
She said no.
We are all in this together. Once again, good counsel. And we're growing through this process. And
She thought gift card sounds
gift card
good.
sounds good. It's on. Yeah, we're going through this process. And for us, it's not even about how many likes, how many views, how many. What we know is we are all in a position where we need to be in the company of like-minded individuals who we can get great counsel from. Because just like we give counsel, you guys bring it back to us.
Amen.
We're not the only teachers here. We're learning through this process too.
We have a growth mindset.
We have a growth mindset.
Yeah.
And so that's continual. So we thank you guys for the engagement. We thank you for coming in the living room each and every week, whether we are split screen, one on the chair, two on the chair, however we're going to do it. We thank you so very much.
Yeah, and we mean that from the bottom of our hearts.
She said I won the other contest.
We are looking forward to seeing you guys next week. And I'll put something out about the contest. When you want to do it?
Baby, do not
say
card.
Girl, the gift card is easy.
Pause. We're not going to say it until we have the gift card in hand and we have the date figured out.
Okay.
Because I know you have been married to you for a while. You have a great heart and you have great intentions, boo-boo. But sometimes that follow through because you just have so much on your mind. It's not because you're neglectful.
So we're going to go get the gift card now.
Baby, we got to eat dinner. You got some fish to fry.
After we eat dinner, we're going to go get the gift card.
Jimmy, the store's closed at 8:00.
Oh, that's right. Corona. All right.
Y'all pray. Y'all, you know what? Y'all pray for my scrumph in the Lord. Because my scrumph. Because I try to be a good helpmeet. And I try not to make my husband feel that's a whole nother show. Pouring into your husband, your spouse, but specifically your husband. Maybe we'll do one just for the women so that they can feel, like the men that God has called them to be. And that,
Rachel,
that's still an area of growth for me.
I'm about to cut you off.
Because sometimes I just want to be sarcastic.
I'm feeling tires rolling over me right
now.
All right,
you feel the boom, boom.
But guys, look,
all right, y'all.
Again, until next week, peace.
Bye-bye, guys. Take care.
Bye-bye. You are goofy.